whoa, 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 whoa. Get out the way, get out the way, get out the way, yeah. Yeah. Get out the way, get the fuck up out my way, yeah. Yeah. Win, 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 win.
Yo, this is Millennial Sport Talk. We are back again for week 2, going for seconds at the NFL. And you guys saw the Power Rankings episode last week, so we're going to incorporate that into our predictions, of course. But, you know, there's a lot of hatred going on of Tomlin and everything. You know, obviously the Steelers tied with the Browns. It's not the result we wanted. But my outlook on that game is simply, would beating the Browns make you feel better about this season? No. We went 13-3 last season and beat them twice, among other teams. But 13-3 still felt like a failure. So given the fact that 13-3 felt like a failure and we still have 15 other games to go with, and also looking backwards, in 2005 we went 11-5, barely made the playoffs as a 6th seed, and ended up winning the Super Bowl, and that season is looked at as a success. So I'm not going to go cry a river over one game. Let's get a few games under our belts, and then we can judge the season for what it is. And if you end up going 13-1 and, well, I guess it'll be 13-2-1, nobody's going to complain about losing to the Browns. Heck, we don't even know how good the Browns are. As I stated in the last episode, they played us. I won't say they played that well, because we still had 6 turnovers, and they still managed to tie with a team that had 6 turnovers. So I don't think they're a great team. But we don't know how bad. We don't know if they're 0-15-1. Or if they can pull out some wins this year, which I think they can get some wins. But I just wanted to throw that out the door at the start, because there's a lot of Steeler fans that were really disappointed. And disappointed is a fine, okay name, but like being outraged, I think that's being a little sensitive and a little extra if you're outraged with the outcome of last week. But yeah, definitely that makes this week a must win. You cannot start the season. Well, I guess you could technically start the season 0-1-1. I'm not sure if there's really any statistics that will say that 0-1-1 teams don't make the playoffs. I know there's something about 0-2, but 0-1-1 is not quite 0-2. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in these rankings. And I'm just going to jump into these games, and I'm just going to go with the early games first. All right, first game on our schedule, we're going with the LA Chargers playing at Buffalo, facing the Buffalo Bills, who managed 3 points in their last matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, who recently lost to the Bengals. There's not much going for this Buffalo Bills team. Sean McDermott, this guy came in and made the playoffs in his first year, and it definitely feels like this is okay, you make the playoffs, a gimme, well, not a gimme year. I guess you would call it like a safe year for him, because why would any Buffalo Bills coach who just got them back to the playoffs after 15 years or so get fired 1 year removed from making the playoffs? So his job is basically safe, and this is probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL all year. The Chargers. Now, I will say this. The Bills do play much better at home, which does have some concern if you're a Chargers fan, especially mixed with the fact that the LA Chargers typically don't play very well on the East Coast, especially when they have to go to the East Coast and the north of the East Coast, Northeast. But I do see the LA Chargers coming away with the win, despite missing Joey Bosa for a second week straight. Phillip Rivers did play well in that Week 1 loss, and against a Buffalo Bills team that made Joe Flacco look like he was back. I think Rivers should do just fine up in Buffalo this weekend. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
You mean Rivers played well against the Chiefs?
Yeah, he played well against the Chiefs. Sorry.
I definitely am taking the Chargers in this game. I mean, yes, the Sean McDermott got rid of the quarterback after he got to the playoffs, which is kind of fascinating. As you said, 15 years, it's been 18 years since the Buffalo Bills have made the playoffs. The last time they made the playoffs was the Music City Miracle, and yeah, that was when I was in high school.
Well,
So,
don't show your age. But yeah, great point, Jeremy. I agree with everything you said. In addition, what you brought up about Sean McDermott benching this quarterback, I mean, what is he thinking? He benches the quarterback that was leading him to the playoffs for Nathan Peterman, only to have to revert back to Tyrod Taylor. Now he starts the season with Nathan Peterman, despite choosing Josh Allen or selecting Josh Allen, with his first overall pick in the draft. And after one game, he switches quarterbacks again. This coach seems like he doesn't know what he wants to do, and he has some type of obligation to Nathan Peterman, who never should have seen the field last year or this year. So I'm a bit confused at why Nathan Peterman was on the field without your starter being injured. So yeah, we both agree with the Chargers, and also one other thing that will help the Chargers is that they're not facing Tyreek Hill this week, who typically destroys them. So always a plus when you're not facing Tyreek Hill if you're an LA Chargers fan. Next game is actually a game we're going to get some fan insight from later on in the next episode. We have some cameras down in Atlanta, Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Dome for the Panthers facing off against the Atlanta Falcons for their early divisional matchup. That is always a very good game, and these two teams typically split with each other during the season. Normally, I would choose Atlanta. I would pick Atlanta to win this battle, but they have some offensive coordinator issues that I just can't. They just unsettle me. I don't trust Steve Sarkisian. I don't think Steve Sarkisian has really done anything in his career to even deserve this job, and he's shown that he's really awful at this job. In addition to that, the Falcons have lost 2 Pro Bowlers on defense. And if you lose 1 Pro Bowler, that's already hard to replace. But you're losing both Deion Jones and Keanu Neal, who were Pro Bowlers in 2017. You're not replacing that. And again, it was already bad enough that you have issues on the offensive side. And Matt Ryan's playing like crap because of, I guess you could blame the offensive coordinator, but Matt Ryan typically goes up and down anyways. Now you have to worry again about your defense. I don't see them beating a steady Panthers team that showed that they can stop the run, which is what the Falcons will need to help Matt Ryan figure things out again. And, of course, that defense is going to be able to limit Julio Jones. As long as they don't give up 300 yards like they did a couple years ago, I think they'll be fine on the defensive side. And the Panthers should walk away out of Atlanta with a win. You got an input on this, Jeremy?
I'm actually going to go the other way. I think the Falcons are going to win. I think that they play a lot better at home going up against the Eagles defense, which I think is actually better than the Panthers defense. They had the same issue last year, but they could not score the red zone against the Philadelphia Eagles. But I definitely think that changes at home. I think they're going to get Calvin Ridley more involved instead of just relying on Julio. They didn't give him any targets last week, but that should change. So I'm sticking with the Falcons.
Okay, all right. So we got a difference of opinion here. He says should change, but we're also talking about Steve Sarkisian. So yeah, hang your hat on that, and I'll take the Panthers with this one. Okay, so next on our schedule we have the Cleveland Browns visiting the New Orleans Saints, and really, I was somewhat impressed with the Browns when they played the Steelers. Their defense seems like they have a legit pass rush. They have some good ball skills in the secondary, some good talent, and that defense is a force to be reckoned with. I'm not sure I can go as far as say they're a top 10 unit, but I think they have the potential to fight for a top 10 spot against a New Orleans Saints team that their defense looks like they're really taking a step back from what we saw last year. Drew Brees, again, though, as long as he takes care of the ball, unlike what the Steelers did and unlike what Ben did, I think the Saints will be fine. After losing their home opener to the Buccaneers, I don't think the Browns are going to be able to catch the Saints by surprise. Saints are going to be very desperate not to go 0-2 and get into a hole. They will be able to get a game back as like we said, the Panthers and Falcons are playing, but Yeah, I definitely have the Saints winning this one. It will be closer, I think, than they hope they want it to be. I think this could end up being a field goal or a touchdown game, but definitely a Saints lock win for me. What do you have, Jerm?
Definitely taking the Saints this one. I wasn't impressed with the Browns. I didn't think they could move the ball against the Steelers, and the only person on the defense playing with anything was Miles Garrett. So, as long as you can just block him, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay, we agree on that one. Moving on, we have a juicy matchup with the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins visiting your Green Bay Packers up at Lambeau Field. And if there's any time to play the Packers, it's probably or play them in Green Bay or at Lambeau. September is probably a great time to do that. This actually was a great timing for the matchup for Minnesota. Initially, I had them losing this game, but with Aaron Rodgers limping around and the Vikings starting to figure out their identity, I do like Minnesota in this matchup. Dalvin Cook was somewhat limited last week, but I'm not overly concerned with that. That was his first game back as a rookie. We saw Deshaun Watson was rusty last week. When you're a rookie, you don't get a lot of games and you go out early in the season due to injury. You're basically a rookie again this year. So I don't. Um, I'm not put off by the fact that Dalvin Cook wasn't as effective as we hoped he would be as a runner because he can still catch the ball out the backfield. And Green Bay hobbling. We know that Aaron Barr, I believe, or the UCLA linebacker for Minnesota, is the guy who actually injured Rodgers last week. Well, not last week. He injured Rodgers last year. He's going to be smelling blood now that Rodgers is limping again. And, a 15-yard penalty to take out the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now is probably worth it to Anthony Barr. That's his name, Anthony Barr. So I'm taking Minnesota just simply because they have the better defense. Cousins, if he's smart, he knows he doesn't have to force things. And, just if you go after Rodgers early, you could probably knock him out of this game and put him out of his misery if he starts. We don't know if he's truly starting just yet. Jeremy, who's your pick?
This one is tough because watching Aaron Rodgers play is kind of like watching an action hero movie where the action guy, the hero, is carrying all these dead weight around and saving the day. Aaron Rodgers is Green Bay. They don't have a great roster. So, I'm going to have to take the Vikings in this game. I just don't see the Packers having enough on their roster to be able to stop the Vikings. I think the Vikings are loaded on the defense and offense.
Yeah, and I think I like your superhero analogy because really that's what's going to take for the Packers to win. Their only hope is for another heroic performance from Rodgers like we saw last week against Chicago where Rodgers is leading the Packers back down a score to win the football game because I don't see them running away with this game at all. Both you and I agree Vikings will win this matchup. So, all right. So next up we have the New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins, which this series typically sees the home team as usual get the W. But this week feels like it's just a lot of questions for both of these teams. I do not trust Sam Darnold, but I don't trust anybody on the Dolphins either. I do trust the Jets are going to have a great pass rush. If anybody saw that Monday night game, you just had to feel awful for Matt Stafford, who felt like a sitting duck back there. He just kept getting pummeled and pummeled. And they were in their home crowd, their home opener. Like they waited all offseason to see that. Miami, Tannehill, I expect him to be pressured, but Tannehill, they're a little more familiar with this Jets team. I'm not sure how much of a difference that will make. This will be a true test for Tannehill because Tennessee did not really get a huge pressures, the same type of pressures on Tannehill as the Jets were able to get on the Lions. But I'm going to have to go with the Jets just because playing at home, I'm not trusting the Dolphins on the road. And I'm going to go with the defense. I'm not going with Darnold. I expect Darnold he just has to protect the ball. I'm sure they've talked to him. He's can make completions and make pretty smart decisions while not losing the game, that will allow the Jets to win this one.
Well, I'm going to go with the hot hand in the dice game. Jets going to win this one. Sam Donald's going to be great. I don't trust Miami as far as I can throw them. So I'm going with the Jets.
Yeah, and I agree. And another statistic to throw out there was that Sam Darnold threw for 198 yards against that win against the Lions. We haven't seen much from him. So this game, he's going to have to show a little more of his cards. I think the Dolphins are going to put a higher priority on taking care of the ball after seeing what the Jets did to the Lions. And again, since they're familiar with the opponent, I still, like you said, Jerm, I think the Jets will be able to ride this momentum that they've created into beating a mediocre Dolphins team at home. Next game is your Pittsburgh Steelers hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is another juicy game for the weekend. A lot of people are picking the downfall of the Steelers this week, going into a 0-2, well, not 0-2, 0-1-1 hole by losing to the Chiefs, but you can tell which jersey I'm wearing here. This is not going to happen on this show. I'm not going to pick against the Steelers in a week where they play an opponent that they own. Like, we absolutely own the Kansas City Chiefs in Pittsburgh. That's what we do. We beat the Chiefs when they come to Pittsburgh. And I don't care if 2-6 is not behind the offensive line. That offensive line creates gaping holes against this front. And they have done so the last 3 years we played against them. And they haven't gotten anybody or anything better to suggest that that will change. James Conner will punch through those holes, and James Conner will have another 150-yard-plus day from scrimmage when it comes to the end of the game. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have at least 3 touchdowns this game as people are doubting him. He always plays well with his back against the wall and a familiar opponent on the schedule. So I like the Steelers winning this one actually pretty easily, if you want to be honest, like 2-score game.
I'll go with the Steelers also. I do think, unless you're going to tell me they're going to turn the ball over 6 times a game, you're not going with the Chiefs. But if Ben can, not turn the ball over, they'll be fine. I agree that Connor has shown himself last week that, hey, Ben makes stars, not the other way around. So Connor is going to be able to replicate what Bell does against this Chiefs front. And I think the defense has improved enough to slow Mahomes down and Tyreek Hill down, and I take the Steelers.
Yeah, and 2 other notes to add to that is that one, Eric Berry continues to not play. Eric Berry and Marcus Peters were the 2 best defenders in the secondary to Kansas City to give Ben problems. If you really recall that playoff game that finished in a field goal battle, well, not battle, but Pittsburgh kicked 6 field goals to win 18-15. It was largely because Eric Berry and Marcus Peters made play after play of breaking up passes that kept the Kansas City Chiefs in the game. That was in Kansas City. This is in Pittsburgh, and they don't have either of those players suiting up. That's going to be a big difference. Also, Patrick Mahomes, that love train affair is going to come crashing down this week. He was able to take advantage of a Los Angeles Chargers secondary that was facing a lot of injuries, which, let's just be honest, Pittsburgh does have Joe Hayden hurt, so that is another thing to consider. But Patrick Mahomes was playing at a neutral site. Kansas City may have actually had the home field advantage against the Chargers in LA last weekend. That's not going to be the case in Pittsburgh. He's going to face not bright and sunny, clear conditions, perfect for passing. He's going to face hurricane-like symptoms. It's going to be muggy. It's going to be rainy. It's going to be ugly, and you're not going to be able to sling the ball around. Tyreek Hill typically does not have the same type of success he does against the Chargers as he does the Steelers. Steelers have faced him the last couple of years. He's yet to really burn us too badly. So those are some other extra nuggets to add as support for our decision to pick the Steelers this week in a bounce-back victory to get a W up on the board on their record. Next up, we have a upset special. Not the Philly special, it's an upset special. I do think that this is a risky upset. I'm not going all in on upset, but I'm still going to pick it just because Philadelphia has one of the most valuable things you can have, and that's a pass rush that can get after a quarterback, and that's what Fitzpatrick struggles with. the Saints couldn't get to Fitzpatrick, and therefore we saw what happened is he put up 48 points up on the Saints defense. But now you have Fitzpatrick at home playing against the Eagles, who struggled to put points on the board last week. I really like Tampa Bay's chances of pulling off this upset. You get the Eagles into that 80% humidity. It's going to be about 89, 90 degrees. It's going to be muggy. It's going to be hot. The Eagles cannot get away. Well, really, Nick Foles cannot get away with the performance he put up last Thursday. They do get a couple extra days off to help change that. And if Foles can put in just a average starting quarterback's performance, I do think they'll win this game. But my guess is that Nick Foles gambled away all his luck last season in that Super Bowl run, and this year we're going to get the real Nick Foles is going to stand up, and Buccaneers are going to beat Philadelphia and send them home with an L. Yeah. Fitzpatrick or Fitzmagic, we can say he has more weapons here than he did in New York. He actually has two healthy receivers, Deshaun Jackson and Brandon Marshall, that complement each other, as well as two great tight ends who can catch the football. He's got an arsenal under his belt, and Philadelphia is not going to be able to just focus on one guy as Atlanta, they just had Julio. So every matchup's different, and Buccaneers do pose an issue with their multitude of weapons in the receiving area. So I like the Buccaneers. Next game is a pretty easy game now that the coaches came out and really thrown a lot of unnecessary fire under an already bad performance. And we're talking about Houston playing on the road against the Tennessee Titans. Recently, Mike Vrabel, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, hinted at a dual quarterback system, or just two quarterbacks maybe playing in this matchup, which is never a good idea, but especially when one of those quarterbacks is named Blaine Gabbert. So, Blaine Gabbert, you don't play him unless he's the last guy on your roster. And this guy, he's decided to already question and undermine his quarterback, Marcus Mariota. After one, he had a bad performance, an iffy performance. But Blaine Gabbert is not going to be the solution you're looking for. This ain't it, Chief. It ain't it. And Houston's going to walk away with an easy win here. What do you have, Jerm?
You're asking me if I'm going to pick a team playing Blaine Gabbert at quarterback?
Well, we don't know if he's playing yet.
And I don't even know when this dual QB thing has ever worked in the NFL. Because anybody has an example when this was like both QBs was able to be effective and the team was able to win games throughout the season and make it to the playoffs with the dual QB? No, I'm not going. I'm going with the Texans here. Texans are the better team, and they'll come out with a win with Deshaun Watson to start the season 1-1.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree there. Moving on, we have the Redskins playing at home in D.C. against the Indianapolis Colts, which is a very interesting game because it's two teams that you don't really see play each other very often. There's not a lot of positives that you really like about the Redskins, but there's more that I like about the Redskins than what I like about the Colts. I do like the fact the Colts didn't get blown out by the Bengals last week, but with the resurgence of Adrian Peterson, he's still early. He's still got fuel in the tank, and the Redskins did a good job at making the Cardinals' offense look pedestrian. I think that they'll be just fine at home against a Colts offense that really relies on Andrew Luck throwing for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I got the Skins winning this game. It may be a little bit closer. We'll see what type of performance Andrew Luck puts up. But if he's not brilliant, if Andrew Luck isn't brilliant in this matchup, it could be a 2-score game.
I'll take Washington as well. The Colts did a lot better last year, like you said, last week. Same with the Bengals. But even though that's at home, I think Washington shows a lot about going on the road and beating the Cardinals. So I'll take a chance here, go with Washington, and Alex Smith is going to protect the ball and do just enough to win the game. And Adrian Peterson is going to run.
Yep. Okay, so that we're both in agreement. Washington over Indianapolis. Now we've already gone over a number of good matchups, and we're going to continue that trend here with the Patriots visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. A matchup that honestly I couldn't tell you the last time they've been to Jacksonville. It seems like they've never played there when the Jacksonville Jaguars are actually good. But this time they get them in Duval against one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. And I have New England coming away with the win, probably about a 20-point win, to be honest with you. I'm going all in with the Patriots here. They're going to win big at Jacksonville because this is Tom Brady, and you don't talk cash before you face Tom Brady because he's going to cash that check in. He does it all the time. What they're going to do, they're going to get the ball first, and they're going to go drive down the field, and they're going to throw over Jalen Ramsey and get a touchdown. And Gronk and Brady, one or the other, they're going to go spike the ball and stare at Ramsey and make a statement. And that's going to be the trend for the game as the Brady just demoralizes the Jacksonville Jaguars as he's going to throw for over 350 yards and at least 3 touchdowns. I have Brady easy in this. How about you, Jerm? All right, go ahead.
I gotta go with Brady too. I really think that they are you just don't go against Brady until he loses. So until like somebody can consistently beat the Patriots, you kind of gotta pick them. The Jaguars had them exactly where they wanted them in the fourth quarter in the AFC Championship game, and it just doesn't matter. This guy is one of the best to ever play the game. So, and I don't think Bortles is going to be good enough to put up enough points to beat Brady. So that's the other side to it. It's not just about the defense, it's about the offense.
Yeah, and that's one of my other notes I had for this game was that Fournette looks like he's questionable, and if he does play, he's going to be limited. So really, it's going to be all on Bortles, and we saw what Bortles did last week against the Giants. He looked like regular Bortles that he normally is. So really, the Patriots, all they need is 24 points to win this one. Once they get to 24, no more than 28, they can secure a victory. And Jacksonville, it's going to be all on their defense to get turnovers. That's the only hope they have. If you have to rely on turnovers to beat the Patriots, then you've already lost. All right, we're cruising now. So the New York Giants are away going to Dallas, where they actually play pretty well up and down in Big D. And I'm calling this the Toilet Bowl just because people want to hype up these two teams so much because of the markets that they have. But really, Dallas is a 5-11 team at best this year. The Giants they might not be far off. I had a lot of hope in them at the beginning of the season. We'll see what they do here. This is a good opportunity to make a statement and beat down the Cowboys with the nation watching. I expect Barkley to have a big day now that he's not facing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were really keying in on him. So, yeah, I expect the Giants to win by 2 scores in this matchup.
So, I'm going with the Giants here. And then because I've never been a big believer in Dak Prescott, I always thought that he was a product of the offensive line playing great, the running game playing great. He never really made great throws to me, just watching him play. So I think that this is going to be a bounce back game for the Giants, and they might be calling Dez Bryant back after starting 0-2. Similar to how they called Emmitt Smith and got Bill done with Emmitt Smith after starting 0-2 about 20 years ago. So it was more than 25 years ago. So I'm going with the Giants.
Yeah, I agree. And again, you're showing your age here, Jeremy. But you're not wrong. I do think you're wrong about the fact that they are not going to call Dez Bryant back. I will say this, not that it's actually relevant, but how weird is it that Jerry Jones and Dez Bryant were hanging out at a Beyonce concert? Negotiating deals? No, maybe just vibing some.
They probably just married.
but yeah, Beyonce brings everybody together, right? No, I never. All right, so our last game, our Monday night game of the week, is the poor Seattle Seahawks going to Chicago to face the Bears with Khalil Mack, who's looking to bounce back for a game they should have had. They are who they thought they were, and the Bears let them off the hook this time. But this time, they're not going to let the Seahawks off the hook. They're going to get this W. Russell Wilson's going to be running for his life. It's going to be, I won't say it's going to be ugly because Russell can always make something out of nothing. But yeah, I don't expect anything to be there all night but Khalil Mack in his face. And Chicago is going to be able to get a W. And that tricky place to play is Chicago, Soldier Field. Russell's going to find that out Monday night. What do you think?
Can we pray? Can we take a moment and pray for Russell Wilson? Because he's going to need all the help against that Bears defense. I don't think he's going to have more than 3 seconds to throw at the time, and it really should be a crime what they've done with the offensive line with Russell Wilson in there. He has to run for his life just to make a single play, and I really I'm taking the Bears. The Bears are going to win this game. They're still a team learning how to win. You got to put your foot on the neck, especially when you're playing Aaron Rodgers. That bad man, Aaron Rodgers. So I think that the Bears will do it this time. They'll, Tariq Cohen will get a couple of touchdowns, and I think the Bears will win the game.
Okay, so quickly, let's go over a few of the games we skipped over. They're a little less interesting games, so I'm glad that we covered the bigger games. But I have the Rams beating the Cardinals as they open up their first home game of the season. That'll be an easy win. The 49ers, I have them beating the Lions. Me and Jeremy actually disagreed on this game. Jeremy has the Lions beating the 49ers in San Francisco. I don't see that happening, but it could happen because the Lions are unpredictable. And then last but not least, we have Oakland at Denver, and we both agree that Denver can get a win, and they will get a win. I do think Oakland surprises people, and they're a little more competitive. I don't think they played that bad against the Rams last week. And with Martavis Bryant, I do feel like his addition could open up the game a little bit more for Amari Cooper, and they'll give him some more targets. I don't think they're actually going to target Bryant, but I think his presence could keep the safeties away from doubling Cooper. So there you have it. Those are our matches. They're actually getting ready to start in about 10 minutes as I'm finishing recording. Just got sick last night. Didn't have the opportunity to upload everything. But getting ready to go. Watch these games about 10 minutes. So hope you guys enjoy.